But first, breaking news out of Poland and NATO on high alert. Top leaders in Poland in an emergency meeting right now after Russian missiles crossed over Ukraine and landed about 15 miles from the border, killing 2 people. It's the first time the war has escalated to this point, potentially triggering a NATO response. And Pentagon officials are reiterating the U.S. commitment to defending every inch of NATO territory, but not providing any more details. Bryan Clark, a senior fellow at the Hudson Institute and an expert in naval operations, joins us now to discuss this breaking news. Bryan, thank you for being with us. It certainly feels significant. Is this the most high-stakes point of this war yet?
It could be, Nicole. The challenge here is that these missiles probably were inadvertently sent into Poland as part of a large missile barrage that Russia launched against infrastructure in Ukraine. So Russia launched about 85 missiles to attack various parts of the Ukrainian energy infrastructure. Some of those missiles may have been engaged by missile defense systems in Ukraine, which caused them to maybe go off course. Ukraine also has electronic warfare systems that could have caused these missiles to go off course. So these are probably inadvertent attacks on Polish territory, but it's clearly something that the alliance is going to have to deal with.
Yeah, and Bryan, it could be inadvertent attacks, but still deadly. Do you think Poland will call for a full NATO response?
I think NATO, or rather Poland, will likely ask for an Article 4 consultation where all the NATO members have to get together and decide how they want to respond and provide a unified statement regarding the NATO's position regarding these attacks. And that's probably the first step towards what might be a response. And it's unclear at this point, even if these attacks were determined to be deliberate or certainly irresponsible. It's unlikely. It's unclear what NATO would actually do. Right? They might increase their defensive efforts along the perimeter of the border with Russia, but it's unclear if there's going to be any sort of retaliation that they could mount.
All right, let's talk about some of Russia's allies like China, Iran. Do you think they are preparing to possibly join in this war effort?
Well, they're already joining in a way. So Iran is supplying Russia with weapons, both missiles and unmanned aerial vehicles. So that's clearly making a difference in the war where Russia has been running out of its own precision weapons. So they've been using these UAVs to attack part of the energy infrastructure in Ukraine. And I think China, clearly they're contributing because they're buying Russian oil, they're buying Russian exports when, some of these allow funds to be sent into Russia and pay for some of the equipment they're buying from Iran and elsewhere. Turkey maybe is supplying some of these technologies inadvertently to Russia by sending those to third parties. So there's a lot of ways that technology is making its way into Russia. Russia's getting the money for that by selling its energy to places like China.
So, Bryan, you mentioned that maybe this missile attack was inadvertent, but let's talk about the timing of all of this, because, of course, we know President Biden currently at the G20 summit. Is this a coincidence?
No, this is it's probably not a coincidence, but it's more likely that Russia is just trying to increase the tempo of attacks on energy infrastructure in Ukraine in an effort to bring Ukraine to the negotiating table in advance of the winter coming, because Russia has suffered some setbacks on the ground in Ukraine. They've been collapsing their lines down to the eastern part of Ukraine and the southern part of Ukraine, where they've been operating for the longest period of time, mostly since 2014 in some of those areas. So as Russia collapses its lines and is forced to retreat in a way, it's using these attacks on energy infrastructure to bring Ukraine around to try to negotiate potentially a settlement before winter comes.
All right, yeah, we will certainly see what happens here. Okay, Bryan, thank you. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.